Okay, so you have done the negotiation and you have signed up to join a company you are really excited about or you've already joined. So, what should you think about? The first thing I want to call out is that our careers are long, multiple decades. You're going to have many jobs in that time frame. And the hard work of building up your career, building up your reputation, having that really amazing network of people who can advocate for you and you can also learn from them, that happens primarily in the job. So don't over optimize or don't think that the hard work is done when you have done the negotiation. The hard work really begins when once you have joined the company. And that period when you are actually working on the ground floor with a ton of smart people, shipping product, moving metrics, that is really where you start to establish yourself. And that is what's going to set you up for longer term success. Being really good at negotiation, even though that is, in my opinion, a very important skill, that is not the core of what you do as an engineer or a tech worker. So make sure you think about that. There's so much that goes into a successful career beyond the compensation part of it. You have the fulfillment, you have opportunities that you can pursue as a jumping off point from your current job, networking, research, etc. So keep that in mind. Some people get so focused on the number that they're able to hit during negotiation that they forget there's a lot more that goes into it. Even if you are not able to negotiate, some job is better than no job. Think about the long-term game and think about how will this job set you up for the next job after that. Don't just optimize for the number of what you're going to earn in the next year or two. Earlier in the course, we talked about how there are a lot of different components that go into your compensation. Salary, equity, bonus, stock, game room, commute, all this stuff that goes into it. But what's interesting is that once you get onto the job, I would argue that everything I've listed here is in some ways secondary. In my opinion, the things that really matter, and these are the things that are foundational for what you're going to achieve later on, are the people, the learning, and the culture of where you work. And so I've talked for a long time in this course now about how can you use different tactics and timing to optimize the offer you get, the numbers that you get. And that is definitely important. You're going to do the same exact work. You might as well get paid adequately for it. But my point here is that these are things like the people, learning, and culture. It's really hard to fully understand before you join the company. And even if you did, it's hard to put a price tag on that. But this is really where you are going to outshine any of your peers. And this is how you get a differentiated outcome for career success. So keep that in mind that these are the things that really matter. And if you have a lot of confidence that you have the best people, the best learning, best culture in a particular company, I would actually opt to take that over something which might pay a bit more. So once you have joined, here are a couple core questions I would recommend that you ask. One is, how is your performance going to be evaluated? A lot of the top companies, they have a really good policy called pay for performance, which means that you're not just going to come in and get the same salary or bonus increment every year. If you perform well, as measured by their internal system, then you will get compensated significantly more than an average performer. So it's really important to figure out with the hiring manager or recruiter, how often are these assessments going to happen? What metrics do you look at? What advice would you have? And then I would recommend codifying that in an onboarding doc. We have a whole course about onboarding. I can leave that in the description. But having that onboarding doc as effectively a soft contract between you and your manager about what do you plan to achieve, who do you want to talk to in those first 30 or 90 days is very important to make sure that you're not misinterpreting or you're not going in the wrong direction when you join. When you think about the change in compensation, the growth in compensation once you join the company, it will often be tied pretty directly to how much will you be getting in terms of your refresh grant, your refresh equity grant, and your bonus. And these are things that are very different depending on the company. So for example, when I was at Meta, they would give you a refresh stock grant every year. At Pinterest, it was every 2 years. And at many other companies, including many startups, they don't even give you a refresh equity grant. So you get some equity grant, you own like 0.5% of the company when you join, but then you won't get anything for 4 more years, which is the typical vesting window. So that makes a huge difference in year 2, 3, 4, how much are you actually taking home? How much compensation are you earning? So having an understanding of that is super important. And that the tricky part about this is that it may not be codified. It may not be written down in the offer letter because it's like hypothetical future grant, which they're not going to put in writing. So this is where having a network of people and talking to people who have been at the company for a year or two is extremely valuable to say, hey, what is the typical expectation for salary change, equity grants, and bonuses? Finally, I would recommend having a deep understanding of how does performance evaluation work at your company? What are the different acronyms being used? What's the timeline? Because the outcome of performance evaluation will be directly tied to how much is your compensation getting adjusted. And whether it's revealed to you or not, almost every company out there, when they have enough employees, they're going to put all of the employees in some sort of ranking system, some bell curve where you have the best people, the majority of people who are going to be in the middle, average, and then you're going to have some people who are in the bottom who are going to be either fired or put on a PIP. This happens everywhere, whether they talk about it or not. And so it is important to talk to your manager about how do they think about it, or talk to other peers to get the inside information, which you may not actually be able to get directly from your manager. For example, a good question to ask the hiring manager might be, can you tell me more about how the performance bonus is computed? And what signals should I look for to understand how I'm trending when it comes to performance? And one thing that often will happen if you're about to join a company or if you're still debating is that the company or hiring manager might make a lot of hand-wavy future promises. And my recommendation there is to discount all of those. Don't assume that you will get something which was promised to you. For example, they'll say, oh, after we raise the next round of funding, then we will dramatically increase your salary, or then we'll give you another equity grant. I would really recommend trying to either put that in writing if you feel like that is a big part of what you're expecting, or just discount that and assume, okay, if I never get that, how much regret would I have for joining this company? Or would I still be okay financially if that never comes true? Because a lot of these future things will never actually happen for whatever reason. Either the company didn't do as well as they thought they would do, or there was a change in plan, the manager might change, so you can never rely on that. My point here is that negotiation is an important part. You want to make sure you're buttoned up and you ask all the right questions. The hard work begins once you really join the company and you build out your network, the people, and you start learning the technology, the tools that will equip you for longer term career success.